Hello and welcome back to this video series where we look at the Ukrainian war and actually we drill out the learning lessons for better communications. Because what I have pointed out in earlier videos is that this war was totally unavoidable. It could have been avoided if all parties, especially NATO, would have communicated in a better way. So as I said in earlier videos, my objective is that the war ends, that the conflict ends, that the people stop dying, needlessly suffering, and that we can find a place where millions, hundreds of millions of people in Europe can back to normality. Millions of people, not only the poor Ukrainian people fleeing the country, but hundreds of millions of consumers, especially less income people in Europe, are suffering higher prices, a more difficult life, actually even in developing countries because the lack of food, there is a lot of hardship which we need to resolve, and that cannot be resolved simply by playing tough guys, but actually better communicating. Also, I want to point out that while I'm raising serious mistakes that NATO has made in this process, I'm not shifting blame from Russia. I'm not doing that. But it is always important in any conflict, in any situation, be it in business, be it in personal, even in matrimonial life. It is important, even if the other side makes a mistake, to look at the own behavior and how the other side has contributed. Because what I always say is, in any conflict, both parties could have done better. Otherwise, there could not have been, or most often there would not have been any conflict. So in earlier video, I already pointed out some communication problems or some principles that NATO blatantly violated. And now I want to continue those in this video. A fundamental mistake of NATO was it never took the side of the other party, in this case Russia. If you are in a business situation, you always want to think, what is the other person thinking? Where are they coming from? What are their feelings? What is their rationale? What is their framework? What is their paradigm of thinking? Only then you can actually have a communication. And what shocked me is still shocking me, how blatantly so-called advisors have no idea about the Russian people. They never spent time in Russia. They don't speak the language. They have hearsay information about Russia. They listen and read books of people who have never been to Russia or hate Russia or don't like Russia or never understood Russia. So what I miss here is literally the sincere effort of understanding where is Russia coming from. How are the people in Russia thinking? And that means sincerely listening, empathizing. What is the other party saying? What are their claims? Are there any valid point? Even if it's not 100% right, where are the points where they have certain rationale which makes sense, and especially from their point of view? Where are they at? What are they thinking? How they are feeling? And one point I want to throw in here. It is very helpful to learn a language because then you better understand the character and the soul of a person. And the Russian language is highly complex. It is not American, it's easy pidgin English. It is a very complex grammar. It's a very complex language. And that demonstrates, hints, how complex the Russian thinking is, the Russian soul is. One thing I want to point out, and I have traveled all over Russia, I have served all kinds of people on charity projects, I help business people, I help people start businesses, I help disadvantaged people, all parts of society I have engaged with. And I must say, the Russian people have, like any culture, strong points and weak points. one of the great things about Russian people, I must say, is if you put them in the right spot, they stand their ground, they don't give up. That's why they won the Second World War against the Nazis. They rather died than giving up. And that's a part of the Russian culture that you need to understand when dealing with the Russian people. Putting pressure on Russian people is stupid. It is like attacking a bear. This bear will all come after you, and it rather dies, but it will not give in. So the total confrontation approach of NATO is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Another point is, typically when you engage with people in business situations, you're not just listening to the word, you read the body language, you get a feel, you follow your intuition, you understand where the person is coming from, what's important for this person, how this person is reacting. And what NATO blatantly violated was the signals that Russia sent. For 3 decades, just unbelievable, where Russia again and again pointed out NATO expansion. No, that's a no-no. No, we can't do that. You're breaking contracts. You're violating agreements. You're breaking trust. We want to protect our people. Why are you pushing a military alliance against us? But for 3 decades, NATO did not listen. And when you are in a personal relationship, love relationship, friendship relationship, you probably have noticed that sometimes it is more than just arguments and rational thinking. Sometimes it's important to demonstrate that you are trustworthy, that you care about the other side, that you sincerely also want the other side to win, not just that you take advantage of the other side. And this is what the Russian people have been missing for decades. And while the Russian side has stressed again and again the issue with NATO expansion, NATO did not care. And some of the blatantly mistakes that America did was to actually speak against neutrality of the Ukraine. And the worst was when the vice president, in all ignorance, in the Munich rounds, when Putin and Russia were seeking assurance and a resolution of the conflict, shared that yes, Ukraine could become part of NATO. That broke the straw, and it triggered a war. Now, one thing I want to point out is, and when I was in Russia, I talked to nurses, I talked to doctors, I talked to volunteer workers, I talked to people who, in all sacrificial love, were serving people. Really nice people. And everyone in 2018 told me, if there are rockets in the Ukraine pointing against Russia, there will be war. Everybody knew. So there is no surprise. We knew that there would be a war. But for some reason, NATO just did not want to listen. And another mistake, and I think that is possibly the worst mistake that you can do in any business situation, is if you attack the person rather than the issues. You can disagree on issues, but if you demonize a person, all communication has broken down, and there is just no alternative. All communication breaks down if you demonize another person or leadership, the other party, because then you can simply say anything. A person puts forth arguments, and well, you don't listen because it's a demon, it's a devil, so you're not listening. And that was the problem. Nobody listened anymore to Russia. Now, here I want to bring something forward, and people will attack me for it, but I say it anyway. I can give you my opinion based on being in Russia, speaking to hundreds of people, engaging with people who personally know President Vladimir Putin. Also, I have followed Putin in the Russian language. I observed him in many interviews in the Russian language. I have seen him fight corruption, fight mafia, fight many, many problems and vices in the Russian society. I was also, at the early age, I was in the 90s, I was in Russia. I saw the horrific situation where after communism broke down, it was total anarchy. The honest people were the most suffering. Mafia were controlling the streets. And Putin cleaned it all up. Consider the facts, what was happening before Putin took over. You had a drunk president who went naked at 3 o'clock in the morning to order pizza, who was an outright alcoholic. Putin cleaned up Russia. He gave poor people a new perspective. He introduced values, good, solid ethics and honesty. Putin doesn't take a drop of alcohol. He lives a role model life in front of Russian people. And he has been bringing on national TV Christians and other ethical people who talked about morals and values. One thing I want to point out to American Christians, Bible-believing Christians, you know all Billy Graham, who went to Russia and preached the gospel of Jesus Christ in Russia. Putin did the same. He gave national TV to evangelical preachers to preach the gospel and share the good news and salvation through Jesus Christ in Russia to millions of people. Now my question to you as Bible-believing Christians, how can a demon-possessed person or a devil do that? So I don't want to defend Vladimir Putin. I don't want to defend the attack on Russia, on the Ukraine. I cry over every single friend in the Ukraine right now who is are suffering, who are fighting, who are losing friends. I have been all over the Ukraine. I have been going to the trenches at the war zone in 2018, under fire, going into the trenches. So I made a sacrifice in demonstrating my love to the Ukrainian people. What I'm saying is, and perhaps that is why it is valuable, let's put things into perspective and let's learn from it. Basic communication principles have been violated in this conflict. What can we learn from it for business and our private lives? And here I want to challenge you to think about it. Now, if you find this interesting, my views, my thoughts, feel free to connect with me through WeChat. On the right-hand side, you see the QR code. You also can send me a personal email if you want to, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Over 23,000 leaders, industry experts, and business professionals are engaging with me there and following my thoughts and views. Thank you, and I look forward to talking with you in the next video.